For news out of East Asia, it is difficult to compete with North Korea's youthful, jocular despot, Kim Jong and his near-daily threats to fire a nuclear-tipped missile at U.S. territory. On Monday, Kim was pictured surrounded by his top generals mulling over maps with targets closer to home, in South Korea and Japan, while warning again that he was ready to wring the windpipes of the Yankees. The young Kim, and his father and grandfather before him, have long tossed violent epithets at their enemies, but Pyongyang's new capabilities to potentially deliver a nuclear warhead across the Pacific have injected fresh danger into the crisis on the Korean peninsula. The North Korean crisis is one of the few creations of the Cold War to have outlived the Berlin Wall. Despite persistent predictions that the communist dynasty would collapse, there are many factors driving the confrontation, chief among them paranoia in Pyongyang, where the Kim dynasty is focused above all on preventing regime change. In neighbouring China, Beijing is paralysed. It is caught between anger at Kim for destabilising the region, and fear that if it pushes Pyongyang too hard, the regime will collapse, and fall into the hands of South Korea, an ally of the U.S. The U.S. itself also seems impotent, knowing that starting any war could lead to devastating attacks on its allies. In Seoul and Tokyo, lost among the headlines is the fact that the crisis is just a symptom of a bigger drama unfolding in East Asia, where an entire post-war order, built and maintained by the U.S. since 1945, is slowly coming apart, while the U.S. military bases still dotted across the region have a whiff of latter-day imperialism. For the past 7 decades, Pax Americana has underwritten an explosion in wealth not matched in the world since the Industrial Revolution. Since the 1950s, Japan, and then South Korea, Taiwan and China, have been able to put bitter political and historical enmities aside to pursue economic growth. At the same time, the U.S. presence in East Asia has papered over serial diplomatic failures, all of the frozen in the 1950s conflicts buried during the decades of high-speed economic growth are starting to resurface. China and Taiwan have drifted further apart than ever politically. The Korean peninsula remains divided and bristling with conventional and nuclear armory. The Sino Japanese rivalry overflows with bitterness, despite a bilateral business relationship that is one of the most valuable in the world.